Howdy, folks. We are back. It's the Samurai Brothers. John, Matthew, back for the first time in a long time. I finished school. Two years. Almost 2.5 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
We're back. Just want to get things rolling again. So we are recording our newest episode 31 of the Samurai Brothers. Matthew, and give us your thoughts about this return now.
Well, it's been a long time coming. We both had various stuff going on, but we're back and we're going at it. So we'll see how this one goes around.
And I'm just visiting.
Yeah, I guess you could call it. I guess you could call it a season 2, for our audio only listeners, because they do seasons. So we'll be listing these as season 2 for audio, but yeah, it's definitely definitely 31, and we're back from our hiatus. So good to be back.
Yep, and we're gonna try and do these on a weekly basis. And I'm just here visiting actually with the family and stuff. And so going forward, unless I'm up here again, we will be doing our normal camera to camera calls. And but we're excited about being back. And Matthew, we've got quite a loaded episode for today.
Yep,
a lot of things happened over the weekend, and we got some big things coming up as well. So I think we should just get right into it then. So let me see. I guess we should probably get started with what we did, right?
Yeah. So last weekend we competed in the SoCal Sumo Open, which been going for 2 years. And this is our
third one.
Yeah, we've been able to do it. All three iterations of it, and it's evolved probably as much as we've evolved. Because it just went from just being in the Honu Sumo Dojo, which was just a one-room dojo, to being in an amphitheater, to now being at a high school gym. So which it actually worked out well, and kind of the beta test for that was really Nationals, because Nationals was in that same gym in June, and even with the 2 mats, it felt pretty spacious. Yeah. And this time they only had 1 mat, and it went pretty well.
Well, that's because it's a good thing they did only have 1 mat, because they went way ahead of schedule.
Oh yeah, they did.
We had to wait like 2 hours for the action to start up. But,
with they did the taiko and the obon dancing and stuff like that, and they went way ahead of schedule. But it worked out. It worked out. So
anyway, Matthew, I guess we'll start off with the lightweights for Sequoia Sumo Club. And we had some new members joining us for these tournaments as well, right?
Yep. We had Luis, who's actually been around since we founded the club, but
He's a founding member.
Yeah, but just because of various life circumstances, which his privacy, we won't get into that. But just various life circumstances, he wasn't able to do anything until finally now. So we got him in there. And
he had a good experience.
He had a good experience. It was a learning experience.
Cover some stuff with him, because it's like he would get in on the good decent tachi, and then he'd be getting in on the moashi.
I feel like both his matches he was winning.
Yeah, well then he would start to pull, or like you said, as we reviewed the videos earlier, that he'd just get himself into the wrong positions. Yeah.
And this isn't trashing him. This is we could call it we could call it constructive criticism. But yeah, so well, it was a learning experience, and he went out and he represents Sequoia Sumo. So I mean, he didn't. I mean, it's like our first however many tournaments, we weren't doing that much different than he was. So it was a learning experience, and it's a learning experience. So. But, and of course, this is the only first real world experience he's had in sumo, because he's had keiko practice, and that's it. And he's gone against let's see, he's not
too many people.
Yeah, he hasn't gone against too many people. So
anyway, Matthew, let's get into how you did.
Quite
the adventure.
Yeah, Technically, I went 3-0, but I don't count the forfeit. I had a guy who was supposed to go against in the first round, and he no showed.
You showed up, and he didn't show up.
Yeah.
So in the record books, at least, it'll be counted as a win because it's a Fusen show.
Yeah, it's technically 3-0, and well, that's how they do it at in professional bot shows, which we'll kind of preview that later. But technically, so I showed up, the other guy didn't, so I got a bye into the second round, and I went against
Quarters, yeah.
Rising.
Joey Springfield.
Yeah, Rising Joey Springfield, who's really more of a featherweight, but it's basically SoCal Open was kind of experimenting with what I call the European weight classes, because they have those weight classes in the European Sumo Championships, but they don't have them present at the World Championships. Maybe that's something that'll be introduced eventually, like, there was that proposal for the 70 kilo weight class.
So anyway, so you had to go against him, and actually it was a little bit of maneuvering because you were able to get him to overturn his foot, and it almost looked like his knee touch, but that, still he overturns his foot. So the top of his foot ended up touching the dohyo,
and that's
before he
that's
pushed
not
you out.
That's not the palms of his feet. So
right. So you got that win in the quarterfinal, and then you matched up with your nemesis,
my one-way nemesis.
Yes, your one-way nemesis, Mr. Edibo Konyeha.
Yeah, the defending lightweight champion.
Yeah, and
the defending U.S. lightweight champion.
That didn't turn out too well because he just.
Yeah, we were taught. Yeah, it's like after we reviewed it, we talked about how I need to work on my Tachi again. That's like kind of one of those evolutions that I was talking about. So my evolution is that I started out doing this like football style 4-point stance, which is basically what the Tachi is, but I didn't have any power behind it because all my weight was forward. So I adjusted it. But, and even though I justify it by the fact that I actually did start winning matches in that adjusted Tachi, but, come to figure out that when it comes to people who are coming in quickly, that may not necessarily do well. So, I'm going to go back to the drawing board again, and because if you ain't improving, you're... I forgot what's the saying. If you ain't improving, it's not if you ain't improving, you're dying, right? Something along those lines. So just improve. But it's like it's like I got a Fusen. I went against Joey. I lost against Edibo. Then I forget what the guy is. He was a 16-year-old going up.
Yeah.
And then I went against Joey again, and then I got caught again with the Tsubari again. So
improving on the Nationals from last year. So 6th place finish at Nationals and a 4th place finish at the SoCal Open,
which is a respectful regional tournament. So it's like I'm
and now we'll have
I'm happy with my improvement. I didn't get a medal, but I'm happy with my improvement. I improved. So
then we're then after lightweights, it was one of our favorite wrestlers, Tim, right, Matthew?
Tim Lindsay.
Tim Lindsay. And he's still got a few things to work on, right? He's still relying on that on trying to instigate the throws instead of positioning himself.
Yeah, but it's again, it's one of those. And so here's the thing: he learns. He does exercises outside of practice.
Yeah,
so
it's just that he gets the habit when he's doing the matches.
Yeah, so that's something we need to work on. So again, I need to work on stuff. He needs to work on stuff. Luis needs to work on stuff. And you need to as well. But you were the most improved of the team.
That's right. Tim only got 2 matches in, but then we had my side, and so I ended up going against Riley from Seattle, and was able to get a Dashinage win on him in the quarterfinals, and then I had to match up against Evan Robinson, who
the founder of
we want to welcome him to the California sumo wrestling community.
Yes, founder of Black Cat Sumo out of the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm. So, and he's pretty powerful, and the great thing we found out also is Math, as you were saying.
I talked with him, found out he was a walk-on at Cal State Fullerton back when they actually had a team, and then you found out from Alan at Santa Ana that
they were teammates.
Yeah, they were teammates. So and he went in there and had to beat you twice, but he got second in his first
tournament.
Yeah,
which is
first
pretty good.
or respectable tournament, and he said that he's just doing this as a hobby.
Yeah.
Not planning on going to nationals this year. Understandable, it's the first time, but he's definitely got potential.
Yep. So great wrestling with them, but yeah, I mean, for my part, I lost Evan in the semis, but then I had to come back, and I had to go against Marshall, who's he's a tall guy too,
and he was wrestling up because you were allowed to do multiple weight classes, which we didn't find out till later, but
anyway, so got to win against Marshall, and then I had to go against Riley again, and I had one of those turn the tables situations.
Yeah, so, as you were falling, you were grabbing him and twisting, and he fell first.
Last minute twist. So
yeah.
So I got my third place medal, so first time that I've won any middleweight matches, and then on top of that,
and of note is that the placing methodology for the SoCal Open, like the tournament itself, has evolved, and this year they went with what they do at nationals, which is, I call it a true second true champion.
Yes.
Because what they do is the top three, they go until all but one guy has double elimination. Yeah. So theoretically, I think this might have happened at one or two weight classes at nationals, but theoretically, the consolation final winner could still be the champion.
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
I can't remember any specific examples of that, but it is possible for that.
Year.
Yeah, it didn't happen last year.
We saw there were a few matches last year where the consolation champion did win one match, but then they didn't repeat. So.
Right.
Anyway, so yeah,
you made it to third, and then you had to face Evan again, who beat you again. But still,
so
most improved. You got your first bronze medal of a sumo tournament, and your first 3 wins at middleweight.
Yep. So now
you went on that tear last year at in open weight, where you actually did pretty well.
Yep.
Against all heavyweights.
Yep. So now, the moment that a lot of people were waiting for, our own heavyweight, right, Matthew?
Yep. Matthew
Woodward.
Yep, Matthew Woodward, yeah.
Or sorry, Westwood.
Yeah. I can't believe I drew a blank on his name either. Yeah, but yeah, we call him Big Matt to differentiate himself from me and him, but yeah. So yeah, Matthew Westwood, who actually has a social media following because he's on a weight loss journey to try to, drop a healthy amount of weight.
Pretty much so. His matches were
20.
His matches were, I mean, for the most part, it's like, he would stand up and people would be trying to move him, and the guys who really couldn't figure that out, would end up getting pushed by him.
Yeah.
And the thing was that if obviously, trying to get him a Mawashi that fits, and if he didn't have the one Mawashi come loose, he would have
medaled.
So.
Oh yeah, against what's his name?
Gary.
Yeah, he went against Gary, who himself is on a weight loss journey, former D1 football lineman, and he was 400 pounds. So there were over 1,000 pounds going in that match. match. just
Yep.
just yeah, it's like you could hear the smacks when he was hitting that touch. It's like we've alternatively referred to him as a brick wall and a truck, because it's one of those things where unless you're like really going hard, then no one's gonna beat him.
And then Matt did come back in I think he won the consolation semi match.
Yeah.
And then he had to go against
Danny Avila.
And
yes.
Danny
is former light heavyweight champion.
And Danny's Danny's represented on the world and stuff, so he knew what he was doing when trying to take on our big match.
And I can't blame him for doing what he does, but basically if there's one tournament that's less important than nationals, what he will do is he will because he's not at the point where he's naturally down yet, but what he will do is he'll just do heavyweight, and then he'll actually weight cut for the more important tournament, which is typically nationals. So can't really blame him, and he did pretty well. I mean, he placed second next to
placed second.
What was the guy from Waseda University? Was Kazuo the
Kazuya.
Yeah, Kazuya.
Kazuya was the big guy from Waseda.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, there were two guys from Waseda. There was a small guy, and then who Luis was winning against, actually.
Yeah, Junta.
There was Junta, and then there was Kazuya, and Kazuya did very well.
So anyway, and then we kind of all had less than stellar performances. Although Matthew was able to get a win in the open weights, but lot better guys. Just depending on who you're going against.
Yeah.
So, but still, we had a pretty successful.
Yeah, we had a pretty successful day, and I would say like good debut. Let's
for Matt.
He might he might be the breakout guy, but we all did well. This is the SoCal Open has established itself as a respectable regional tournament. So
anyway,
we're
now we'll be focusing on the U.S. Sumo Open, which will be in May.
Depending on how things go, maybe I might go to nationals, but we'll definitely do. We're definitely working on
the U.S. Open.
Yeah, and then one or two of us might go to some other one or other tournaments, but definitely as a team, U.S. Open.
All right. Well, I guess Matthew. Then we'll get into Pro Sumo.
Yeah.
I think. So one of the things that we know is that Teruno Fuji, Yokozuna Teruno Fuji, retired.
Yep.
And
you know what? He had one of those come from behind, comeback stories.
The legacy.
But
cemented.
Oh yeah, and definitely because he's in. Was it like the top 11 Yokozuna?
Yep, he has 10 Yusho.
Yeah,
not a lot of wrestlers have that.
Yeah, he's made history. So it's it's unfortunate that he spent most of his career, then not spent out with injuries, but he had a good career, he had a good run, and those kind of a passing of the torch because his fellow Mongolian Hoshoryu is now Yokozuna.
So we're gonna see how this goes. We're back down to 2 Ozeki. We do have 1 Yokozuna. Koto Zakura though is in he's in Karaban status because he had a losing record last Basho.
Yeah.
Hopefully he can get it going to retain the rank. I don't know if we have any real strong candidates for Ozeki promotion, although Daieisho did have a double-digit record, I believe. So.
I would say not in the immediate future, but I'm not going to, I'm going to keep, saying that, that Teruno Fuji is probably going to make it there at some point.
Teruno Fuji? Or Takeru Fuji?
All the same.
They're all from the same head.
Yeah, from Isegahama.
So we'll see how that goes, right, Matthew? And we're excited to see how this Basho is going to turn out.
Well, and also, it's kind of a heritage. You have Oho, who's Sekiwake, who's the grandson of Taiho.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, though we're kind of in a transitional time right now where there's not any traditional like dominant guy, but we also have some up and comers who were on the coattails of that previous generation, and kind of the guys who were at the tail end of the whole Shoryu era, who not the whole Shoryu era, the Hakuho era, who were kind of like, it's like I want to set myself apart. So it's an interesting time in sumo, and there's not really any one dominant but then again, if you think about it, there wasn't any one dominant person during when we first went over there, and it's the heyday of the 90s where you got Takanohana and Akebono doing the rivalry, Musashi Maru.
Yeah, but Takanohana was the dominant Yokozuna.
He was dominant in terms of how many basho, but if you look at the head-to-head, I think that it was pretty even, and Akebono might have actually had more head-to-head matches.
They had even head-to-head record overall, but Takanohana was the one winning the more basho.
Yeah.
That was the thing.
To me, something that's still kind of crazy is the fact that, recently when I looked on that list, is that Musashi Maru had more basho.
He did.
Than Akebono. I was surprised about that.
Of course, he made Yokozuna around the time that Akebono was, dropping off. So, anyway, yeah, we'll see how this goes. We'll keep you updated, folks, as we go into the next week is when the basho starts. So we'll see how it goes.
Something else that I'd kind of like to bring it up is that the Waka brothers both did not do the best at
no, they didn't.
But they're Mach 1, so yeah, they're in that category where I call them kind of smaller to mid-sized guys, but they're smaller to mid-sized technical guys because they made it as far as they did. Mm-hmm. So that they're not pushovers.
All right,
and of course, runner-up Tobizaru is actually pretty far up there as well.
So now we're going to transition, and
it's raining again.
Yep. So anyway, Matthew, let's transition to the next. So our next topic.
Are we going to talk about One Piece, or are we going to talk about California State?
Let's talk about One Piece. So, since it's been 2 years since we have done this.
Yeah, the last time they were in Wano.
It's Wano, so obviously, spoiler alert. You got 3, 2, 1. Okay, so now we talk about spoilers. So last time we had talked about One Piece was 2 years ago. It was still in the Wano phase, and obviously Luffy and company defeated Kaido and Big Mom. So Luffy is now an Emperor of the Sea. Funny thing was, somehow Buggy also became an Emperor of the Sea after a misunderstanding by his crew. They assumed that he was going to be
the head
in charge of the alliance between him, Crocodile, Mihawk, which Mihawk and Crocodile were obviously not amused by.
Yeah, not amused, but they decided let's just use him as the scapegoat.
Yeah, he's the figurehead.
Yeah, and obviously. They were like, if necessary, we can dispose of him.
Yeah.
Of Cross Guild.
So now, and then we got into the Egghead arc, which they finally met Vegapunk. And Matthew, I have to say, it was an interesting way it turned out because, one, we finally found out about how, the names of all the Gorosei.
Yeah.
Or the 5 elders. And but on top of that, Emu kind of made some moves also because with the defeat of Saint Saturn of the 5 stars, he was executed by Emu.
Yeah.
And
then, we still don't exactly know the nature of all that power, whether there's actually some godlike power or whether there's a devil fruit involved.
Yeah.
Or stuff like that.
But now,
Oh, and then we were introduced to the Holy Knights and let's say the Figurlin family, in particular Figurlin Garland.
which we'll get into more detail shortly, but just to kind of finish the summary. Figurlin Garland is now the newest member of the Five Elders, and now we get into finally getting to Elbaf, and we are now fulfilling Usopp's dream that he declared, all those years ago.
Of coming to the land of the giants.
The land of the giants. So, a variety of things have happened, and, at one point they got separated, but now they're all back together. They've been having a party. They've met all the giants that they've had past contact with, and we're meeting new characters.
The giant
also.
Pirates.
Yeah, the giant pirates.
The members
Dory
of
and Brogy.
The members of the Grand Fleet.
Mm-hmm. So now where are we at? So Luffy somehow met Loki, who is an interesting character.
The disgraced. He's technically still the prince, I think, right?
Yeah, he's a prince of the giants.
Yeah, and he's an old school giant. He's the size of oars, which means he dwarfs even the current giants.
But so now what's kind of crazy now is that we found out that for those of you who have been following One Piece, you may have noticed how there was that one point during the Reverie arc where supposedly Shanks had met with the Five Elders, but a lot of people had floated this theory online that it was somehow Shanks' evil twin. Well, now we can confirm that was Shanks' evil twin,
Figurlin Shamrock,
and which means, and based on supplementary information provided by Oda in the following chapters, Shanks was born a world noble.
Yeah.
Somehow, he lost that, but I think it's a different. It's kind of a different circumstance compared to the Doflamingo family.
Yeah, especially because apparently he was offered. So here's what we know based off of other sources outside of the what's it called? Outside of the manga, that's not. It's not non-canon until it's specifically contradicted in book. Mm-hmm. But from what we understand, Shanks was separated. Basically, it had to do with the God Valley incident. He was separated from the other world nobles, and he was raised by the Roger Pirates. So he basically spent most of his life as
outside of the Holy Land.
Right. So, but Figurlin Shamrock noted that he'd at one point gone there, and so here's my theory, and you can chime in or not, but my theory as to why he was extended a chance to go in is because unlike the Doflamingos,
they willingly gave up their
the Don Quixotes, Doflamingos specifically. Yeah, who was their father? Don Quixote.
Homing.
Yeah, Homing on behalf of his sons.
Rescinded his
and his wife basically rescinded their membership as world nobles. So right, it was him speaking on their behalf as their guardian. Shanks never had that privilege. God Valley happened and people got separated. Figurlin Garling never said, I am on behalf of my son, I'm separating, or I'm separating him or whatever. So based off of the fact, my theory is that because there wasn't any kind of official separation or anything going on like that's why they were extending him that invitation.
I'm almost certain that it was Garling who was trying to do that influence, and you got to remember, Garling is a high-ranking official,
commander of the Holy Knights.
He's a commander of the Holy Knights, so I'm very certain that has a lot of sway,
And so far, the Holy Knights are the only world nobles who are confirmed to voluntarily take devil fruits.
And then on top of that, they're also the only ones besides the 5 elders that we see that they don't wear the helmets.
Right. Well, and one channel that I like to watch is Grand Line Review a lot. So his theory is that the reason why they don't do that is because essentially, it's like the gods are like, oh, we're pure, so we don't want to inhale the nasty, those people's breath. But I guess the theory is that because they're already cursed and they're taking like the devil fruits, that they're basically considering themselves already cursed, and it's just like, well, it's like we're doing this for the good of our, I don't know if you'd call them a separate race, or class, caste, whatever. We're doing this for the good of our people. Let's put it that way. So, that's basically might be the reason that they don't wear the because they consider themselves already basically cursed to a degree, whereas the rest of the world nobles are still snooty and consider themselves not. So but of note is, of course, because of in the recent chapters it's been iterated that Shamrock is actually being recalled back to Marijois. So we're not gonna get that. It will be interesting to see if that meeting ever takes place, but for the time being, it seems like we will not be getting that meeting between Shamrock and Shanks, and Shamrock and Luffy.
Right. Yeah.
Which from the sound of it, Luffy was already like, this guy can't be Shanks based off of his behavior. So,
right.
Well, and another thing is that he probably would recognize based off of the fact that Shanks doesn't have the 3 scars, because he would know. Yeah, he would know, right? Well, let's not forget the fact that Shanks sacrificed an arm for Luffy.
Yes, of course.
So you see a 2-armed guy with no scars, and he's automatically gonna be like, "You're not Shanks. I'm gonna punch you in the face," which he's done to world nobles before.
Anyway, so that's kind of where we're at, and then now we're just ready for a standoff between Luffy and Loki.
Yeah, because all but his foot is
tied down,
and he's standing up. But something else I've noticed is that there's a high number. It's not just the Will of D and the world nobles, but I noticed that there is a high number of those groups that have Conqueror's Hockey. It's not just them, but it's definitely prevalent among those groups. But if you consider for the world nobles, at least, that they come from like 20, not at least 19 kings that were all conquerors, and if they actually go and they train in that, then we know that it's genetic, because Garp and Luffy both had both have Conqueror's Hockey. So
that's right. All right. Well, we'll see how it goes next week.
Yep.
And we'll definitely be reviewing it then. Well, Matthew, we're going to get into our final segment, which is probably the biggest event in California that happened this weekend as far as wrestling is concerned.
Yep. The California State Championships.
The CIF State Championships. And boy, I'll have to say, looking at the results, so first stat I have to bring up regarding these results is that the top 4 teams were all obviously the winner, who we'll be talking about shortly. They finished 7.5 points ahead of second place, but then third place also finished only 1 point behind. So
it was a close race.
This was a very close race. It did come down to the finals round, and I was looking it up, and this was closer than 3 years ago, because 3 years ago, at least the race was decided by, there was a 14-point gap between first and second. So that means that this race was closer than that one. So, but anyway, well, I'll start us off with who the top 5 finishers were. So let me see here. Get in here really quick. So the one thing I do have to say, so in fifth place we had Clovis with 211 points. Fourth place was St. John Bosco from the southern section, and clearly still the strongest team in the southern section. Gilroy, and we'll talk about how they managed this shortly. They finished with 239 points. Our runner-up was Poway, who won last year. They finished with 240. And Buchanan is your winner, reclaiming the crown after 2 seasons with 247.5. So the crazy thing about this was that, first off, St. John Bosco, they really were making a run for it. They were in the third place race until Gilroy caught him. But one thing that we did find out, Bosco had 13 state placers, Matthew, and that is a new CIF record because the previous record was 12 placers, which ironically was set by Poway and Buchanan last year. And Bosco just goes out and places all of them. And here's the crazy thing. I think Bosco would have had 14 if their heavyweight had not gotten hurt before the league finals.
Yeah, but their backup heavyweights.
Their backup really fought. The fact that they had him go out there, he won league, he placed it CIF divisionals and masters, and he was a couple matches short of placing. This has never been done in CIF history. All 14 wrestlers placing, but hey, that's something to look out for, in the future.
And we still aren't sure how many of those guys are coming back, right?
We don't know right now, but Bosco's clearly been getting up there, post Valencia days.
The Valencias are what started it, but I mentioned in a private conversation we had earlier, but that is coaching. That is streamlining, because it's like you could have some good wrestlers, but to continue that success, you're clearly investing and building a dynasty. And I'd be willing to say that they probably have like a feeder program, because
they might.
That's the only other thing I could think of.
I mean, yeah, I think a lot of these schools actually probably do have that. That's probably how they're getting. They have clubs, and they have, they probably have some middle schools set up as well. So that's something that, we'll see how it's going.
Well, middle school wrestling isn't as like actual sport sponsored middle school wrestling isn't as common in California as it would be in other places. Like, when we were on base, that was the base schools, and the status of those actually flip flopped. Like I think I was reading recently, I don't think they have that but depending on that, the high schools would still kind of sponsor that, because it's like I said, middle school sports has flip flopped over time, but depending on MWR and whether depending on the sport, the high schools wanted to sponsor that, because, like, for example, my sixth grade year, YMS actually sponsored wrestling, right. But something happened in that 7th and 8th grade years. I think it might have been the superintendent of Dodge schools at the time. He said, why are we wasting a budget on, like, something along those lines. He was like, why are we wasting a budget on middle school sports? So he dropped it. But so for some of the other more popular sports, MWR picked up the slack there. But for the sports that didn't have that, the slack was picked up by the high school who picked that up. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So we had another record set, and this was Gilroy, something that's never been done before. But this is how they jumped Bosco, getting into third place, was the fact that they went 5 for 5 in the boys' finals. So they have 5 state champions, and that is a record, passing the old ones that were set by Bakersfield on 2 occasions when they had their state championships, and then Buchanan when they won in 2020.
I just remember that was when what's his name,
Varner.
Yeah, Varner was during the Varner era.
But, so
that guy was scary when he was the dominant high school wrestler.
So this I mean, obviously, DC's really been working with Gilroy. He's been consistent.
Oh yeah, Daniel Cormier, yeah. That could definitely be attributed to a success. Well, we are talking about what was it, 2-3 time Olympian, and a multiple
UFC,
and a multiple time All-American.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's no joke.
Now, one thing another interesting stat, Matthew, that I found, which kind of correlates to, and I'm sure I could go back a little further, but obviously I wanted to look into how it's been, post-COVID. But we do know that the team that wins the Doc Buchanan tournament, which is, I think, considered one of, if not the premier tournament in the state, because they do get teams from out of state also coming in to wrestle at this event. But and it always is won. It's been won by a California team over the last 4 years, and the team that's won that tournament has gone on to win the state title. So we had Buchanan. They won it in 2022. 2023, they won it this year. They won the state titles in those years. Poway won the Doc B tournament last year, and they won the state title last year. So there does seem to be a correlation between winning Doc B and winning the state title. And I'm actually going to be trying to go back and look at previous Doc B tournaments to see if those teams that won that also did go on to win state. So it's an interesting stat, and I'm looking forward to digging up a lot more stats with this going forward too.
Yeah, that is kind of one of those interesting. It's funny how, like, with certain situations, and sports are no different than that. That something that happens earlier in the season would kind of foreshadows what'll actually happen later on. Yeah. But Buchanan had to really fight for that because
they did.
Yeah, because that championship came down to the wire.
Yeah, and actually, that was the match between Sierra and Zinkin, and I know that Zinkin ended up winning that match, which pretty much sealed the deal, and he was actually Buchanan's only state champion. But
they still won.
Right. Well, that head-to-head pretty much sealed it because Poway would not be able to catch them, even if Poway had won their last final that they had. So that's what did them in. But even if Poway had beaten, they would have still had to win the last final, I think. So it would have been interesting how that would have gone down. So anyway, Buchanan is your 2025 state champion, men's in the CIF. And so now we kind of go to the women's. And again, Matthew, I'm not going to say, I don't want to say that, there's no dominant team. It's just that I think it's just whoever, it seems to me that at least with how the girls' championship goes is that whichever team shows up that weekend is the one that goes on to win.
Yeah, because we had that one repeat with Marina, but then they didn't. Were they even in the top 10 the year after?
I'd have to look it up. I know that they did finish 5th.
It does seem like they're a little bit more consistent because they placed 5th this year, but I don't remember them being even being in prominence.
So,
but it seems that the Central Valley dominance does seem to be a thing, especially this year because Clovis East.
Yes, Clovis East is your champion. Now here's the interesting thing. Compared to the boys tournament, you just need the right people to show up with the girls. And we noticed that Clovis East, they had 1 champion and 2 third place finishers, which, if you look at that, No team at the girls tournament for this year had more than 3 placers, and that's quite something.
Well, if you look at that scoreboard, it's like
the scoreboard was
the winner got 84.5, whereas the men's, it's like we're in the 200s for
all five teams.
Yeah, all five top placer teams, whereas the scoreboard for the women's in the top 5 range from the 80s to the 60s. So yeah, it is an interesting. Well, it's going to be even more interesting when NCAA women start, because it has been
if I'm going to make a prediction, Iowa, they will win the first tournament.
Yeah, because they've gone out of their way to recruiting. They hired an Olympic gold medal. Was she an Olympic gold medalist? Or was she?
I don't know.
She was definitely like a top wrestler at one point.
Well, yeah, she was. She was a top wrestler. Yeah, Clarissa Chun, right? Yeah, she's a 2-time Olympian.
Yeah,
she won bronze. She won bronze at the London Olympics, and she was a gold medalist at the 2008 World Championships. So, no joke. And like, I'm gonna call it. Iowa's gonna win the inaugural title. That's my call.
Well, because as much as I wrestled in AIA, so I'm not even going to talk about the women's NAIA. But yeah, there's just no dominant NCAA program other than Iowa.
That's because we haven't had the tournament yet,
right?
But considering how well they've got Kennedy Blades, on the team, right? Mm-hmm. So that right there, she will be an NCAA champion, and it's just going to be an interesting thing going forward. But anyway, so. Buchanan is your boys CIF 2025 state champions. Clovis East is the women's CIF state champions. So congratulations to both teams on that. And, be looking forward to see how, it seems to be, I think we have a clearly established race, Matthew, on the boys,
Yeah, it's Buchanan and Poway for it now.
Well, Buchanan, Poway, and then Gilroy and Bosco hang with them, and Clovis. These 5 teams, but and then to close this out before we finish, we have been seeing some Orange County teams kind of rising up recently. Fountain Valley and Esperanza, boy, man, they have been dominating in their divisions, obviously. But
the irony is they both used to be in the Sunset League. Esperanza left to be in at the time of the Century League, now the Century Conference. And Fountain Valley stayed in the Sunset League. So they have different.
And in a future episode, we are going to talk about the conferences that have developed recently, which that's a whole nother Pandora's box.
Yeah, that's like that. It's a concept that in California did not exist when I was wrestling in high school, and it didn't exist until the last 10 years or something like that. It's a new concept, and it's just it's. So
that's going to be our future endeavor. So anyway, Matthew, I think we are going to close it out for today. I mean, I'm glad that we have finally gotten back into this, and Matthew and I have some new projects that will be planned. We're still working on a lot of that, and we'll be sharing that with you when we have more information and we know that we're going to be doing that. But in the meantime, Matthew, hopefully we'll be able to get our social media back up and running, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and one thing I'm gonna want to see if I can't do is see if I can't see if I can't do like these one-off videos where I'm doing reviews of stuff outside of this, whether it's just general nerd culture. Whether it's talk about stuff like general nerd culture, maybe my take on certain movies or games or stuff like that, or anime, manga. There's a wide field, and it's just something that the podcast is gonna be the main thing. But
which yes, that is one thing that we have been talking about. Obviously we do these podcast videos, but on top of that, loading onto the main channel, uploading, maybe some, small, shorter videos here and there for everyone's entertainment. And then obviously we've got stuff that you and I want to cover separately, and we're probably going to be working on that as well. And, so we got a lot of exciting things that, a lot of plans that we have. And we'll be working on that in the future and letting you know how it goes.
Yep.
All right, Matthew. So I think we will cover that. Anything else you want to say?
Well, let's see. My socials are at Matthew Sulzer. Typically all lowercase, but that's me on Twitter and Instagram, and I run stuff on the Sequoia. If you want to help us with our stuff, Sequoia Sumo on Facebook and Instagram, and then Matthew we're on, and then for our, we've got the Twitter, we've got the Twitter, we've got the I forgot. Do we have an Instagram?
Well, I mean, you do have the Sequoia Instagram, right?
Yeah, but I was, yeah.
We'll post all that in the links below.
We definitely have the Twitter and the Facebook, and then of course we're on YouTube, and we're on Spotify, and a bunch of those other audio platforms, Rumble, stuff like that. So yeah, it's good to be back, finally back in the saddle again.
So we will be seeing you again. We'll be coming back next week. Just kind of first getting into the first week of the Basho and seeing how it's going, and more updates on Onepiece and stuff, and we'll be going from there. So till next time, everyone, we will be seeing you again, and take care of yourselves.